I'm Emma-Louise Coffey and you're welcome to the Dairy Edge, the Teagasc Dairy podcast. We're bringing you the latest information, insights and opinion to improve dairy farm performance. With the huge workload at this time of year, the stresses and pressures on dairy farms are at their greatest. Peter Hynes is a dairy farmer who has struggled with mental health and is a keen advocate for the importance of talking and improving health and well-being among farmers. But before we spoke about this, I asked him about his farm system.
Here is a grass-based system. I returned home farming in 2010, and after quotas went, we built a herd up from 50 cows up to we're now milking 180, all spring calving. So we try and feed somewhere between a half ton and 750 kilos a meal per cow. Pedigree Holstein herd. We're a Keystone herd, so we use the G1 bulls, and we're chasing EBI as much as possible. We've grown the EBI, the herd, a lot in the last few years. The heifers on the ground would have an average EBI of double the milking herd. So we're gaining genetics very, very quickly.
And when you say that you went farming in 2010, this was I suppose a new venture for you, Peter. Can you delve into that a little bit?
Yeah, I was working for Roadstone, and I got the opportunity, I suppose, to come home and help out on my stepfather's farm, and return to Dara down to Clonakilty College, because I felt the first thing I needed to do was go and educate myself and see what was new out there. We weren't doing a whole pile of days of grass at the time. We were doing about 240 days of grass, about 270 kilos of milk solid. So I knew in order for two people to be at home farming, things would have to change and change relatively fast. I also joined a discussion group. I was very lucky at the time that I had Tom Curran as my facilitator, and I suppose between going to Ag College and help from Tom and the discussion group, got straight into grass measuring. The following year we did 310 days of grass, and we changed to an AI system as opposed to a stock bull had been used up until that. So it was kind of changed the whole system so that we could try and start getting it efficient as fast as possible. We were also running a calf to beef system at the time, which, to be quite honest with you, when we looked at it on paper, it was essentially a saving scheme. What money we were putting in, we were getting it back after 30 months. So once quotas went, the beef cattle went straight away. We went straight to 100 cows. We didn't really have the facilities, but I suppose our aim was to grow the herd as fast as we could and then change our facilities, because we needed a decent herd to have repayment capacity. So in 2017, we calved down 150 cows. We built a new milking parlour. So we had an 8-unit parlour and 70 cubicles at the start of 2017. And you can imagine calving 150 cows, and that is a huge challenge in itself. But the new facilities were ready at the start of April. So we now have a 20-unit parlour, cluster flushing, automatic cluster removers, baling, put in the moo monitor system there to reduce labour requirements, and we have 190 cubicles and feed rail for 240 cows. So I suppose the other thing we'd been doing all along was putting a huge effort into the breeding season, trying to tighten our calving pattern. We went from a 31-week calving pattern in 2010 down to last year we calved 86% in 6 weeks, and this year we're due to calve 77% in 4 weeks. And I think looking at the calving percentages at the moment, we'd probably get close to 80% in 4 weeks. But it was a way in which we could gain a huge amount of milk and grow our milk solids as fast as possible, because we still have a very young herd, and you can imagine putting in a lot of heifers every year and trying to get out the inefficient cows that we're kind of been chasing ourselves the whole time.
And I suppose that's something I wanted to pick up on with you, Peter. You mentioned, like, when you started farming in 2010, there was 270 kilograms of milk solids. And, you know, that's relatively low when we look at the national average, which was probably around 370, 380 at that stage. What have you built that to, say, if we look at 2018?
So last year they did 440 kilos of milk solids. And our goal is to get to 500 kilos of milk solids, which I think is achievable with a bit of age and EBI with the new genetics coming in the whole time. Like you'd see our first and second lactations are kind of really pushing the boat out as against the older cows in the herd. But when we were trying to grow, we weren't culling willy-nilly. We were just culling the empties.
So you'll have scope to do that in the future. And I guess there's a few things you've pointed to that have also contributed to that. You're breeding for, very strong on the EBI in terms of genetics. You're achieving higher days at grass, and also that really high 6-week calving rate. You're at 86% last year. That's going to drive a long lactation, and I suppose really getting all as much milk out of the cows as possible. If we just roll back, then you mentioned in 2010 you went to Ag College, and I suppose with no offence to you, Peter, you were probably older than I suppose the average cohort in the Ag College. Was that a daunting experience for you, and how did you find it?
I was older than most of the lecturers now, to be fair.
Yeah.
I was 36, and look, I wasn't going to get the VAT exemption by going back to Ag College. So I suppose everyone would have told me on paper it was going to be a complete waste of my time. But you can imagine trying to, I suppose, as a husband with daughters, and trying to do a bit of farming as well, and being in a discussion group. I hadn't kind of got the option of traveling or maybe going on a different course, and I just felt Dara ticked all the boxes. Hands out to the lecturers, they were phenomenal. They gave me all the help I needed down there, and I think just between that and the discussion group, and when you're keen to learn and soak up what's been given to you, there's great people out there that are willing to help educate us. And I suppose I was maybe lucky at the time. I got student of the year down in the college when I finished, so it was nice to see a bit of hard work rewarded. I might have done a little bit of more work down there had I known there was an award at the end of it, but sure.
It all worked out. And I guess then, Peter, a lot of our listeners would be very aware of you from social media. And, I suppose you're a good example of somebody who would talk about their dairy farming career as a really nice way of life, and I suppose a very family friendly way of life.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, Paul and myself run the farm full time together. We're the only main labour units on the farm. We use contractors to fill the gaps at the minute, and the kids are very good, in fairness to them now. They take a turn day on a Saturday and a Sunday to give us a hand down the farm. Our 11-year-old daughter, she can milk the herd of cows. She'll come milking with me, and she'll run the parlour while I'm fetching cows and doing a fence, and I'll fall in with her. Same with our 15-year-old daughter Chloe. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't even attempt to run the farm at the level that we are if I hadn't Paula working alongside me. We'd back each other up. We're very much teammates, and we have a passion for the job, and both of us are still trying to learn, and we try different things, and some things work and some things don't, and you learn from your mistakes just as fast.
And it's really nice to see the younger generation getting involved with you, and potentially some future farmers coming up along too.
Yeah, we'd hope so. I mean, look, we'd be very conscious that we don't want to sicken them from farming either. They have to enjoy it. They're not both. They don't both kind of get stuck in together. They take it in turns so that they get to go off and do fun stuff with their friends and GA and swimming and whatever. And but no, it's great to have the team support and enjoy it together, because I suppose, as you can imagine, when times get busy and there's long hours to be done, it makes it a lot easier when everyone in the household understands what's actually happening.
Yes. And I suppose if we move on then, Peter, you're getting involved in a fundraising initiative, and I suppose we'll get to that in a minute. But I suppose, where is the background for this coming? I suppose you're working alongside Teac Tom, based in Kilkenny, in terms of, I suppose, awareness for mental health. So, talk through your interest in this area.
Yeah, so I suppose if we go back to 2017 there, when we won the Farm of the Year, we had an open day there with Teagasc and a good number of the ag companies that we work with. And one of the charities that we supported at the time was Aware. We also supported Breast Cancer Ireland, and I suppose we just kind of felt at the time it was worth noting why we picked both charities, and nobody had known up to then. But I struggled with depression 17 years ago, and I suppose having seen the dark days and seeing how tough life can be, and come out the other side and learn how important it is to talk, it was just something that I suppose there was a passion about, and it was a huge eye opener to me when I said it publicly. How many people maybe took a bit of relief or a bit of guidance from it, in that they saw how important it was to talk. And I get a huge amount of private messages and phone calls, and I've had some amazing conversations with people that have struggled in silence, and maybe just wanted to chat to someone that they felt they had something in common with. So in if we roll forward then to November 2018, I had to make a speech at the Farmer of the Year Awards, and Helen Carroll was emceeing, and because myself and Paul are ambassadors for Rugby Players Ireland Tackle Your Feelings campaign, which is a mental well-being campaign. And Helen rang me the following day, having listened to the speech and whatever, and she just said, "Look," she said, "I'm very friendly with Angela Hayes, who runs the Thomas Hayes Trust, or Teac Tom, in Kilkenny, and she said, I think Angela would love to chat to you." And so I said, "By all means, pass on my contact details," and had a chat with Angela, and she wanted to see if she could engage more with the farming community. And I suppose she doesn't receive any state funding, so that organisation costs a huge amount of money to run. They supported 500 people and families in 2018, and I just, myself and Paula, kind of, we'd been looking at something to work with in mental health in 2019, and we said, right, this kind of really fits the bill of what we want to do, and it gives us a chance to do something within the farming community as much as possible. So,
And I suppose that's where Rearing to Go comes from. And I suppose if you give us a bit of insight into the event, when it's on, where it's on, and what we can expect.
yeah, so Rearing to Go is number one. It's a charity auction of calves in Carnmart on the 2nd of March, which is a Saturday, not clashing with any of the rugby matches. So we have a good family day planned. There'll be lots on down there. We have celebrity auctioneers. We currently have 33 calves donated, and all the funds that are raised on that day will be going directly to Teac Tom. And on top of that, then what we also do with Rearing to Go is, because our number one vision is to create awareness in the farming community, we have a Twitter page set up, and every Saturday we have someone from the ag sector chatting about their own mental health, mental well-being. Um, we've had some phenomenal people on in the last few weeks, and another guy coming up this weekend now. He's from the US. He's got an amazing story, but it's all about showing people the importance of talking and not being afraid to talk to someone, and just sharing stories. And we're also looking in the future at setting up workshops. So we hope to run maybe 8 or 10 workshops throughout the country in the ag sector over a 12-month period.
And if we look at you mentioned that calves are donated, so individual farmers are donating a calf, I suppose, from their farm for auction. Is there still an opportunity for farmers to donate calves at this stage?
There is. I mean, look, calving is well in swing. The reason we chose the 2nd of March was to try and stay within the TB the test for farmers. So the calves would mostly be under 42 days, but we're greatly accepting donations right up to the day of the auction. Cork Marts are huge supporters. Every farmer that donates a calf is getting a free bag of Volac Heiferlac, and also a bag of calf nuts from Dairy Gold. So we want to try and give something back to the farmers as much as we're trying to ask them for something. It's mostly dairy bred heifer calves. There's been a few farmers that have got on that don't have a surplus replacements, so they've donated an Angus or a Hereford bull calf to us.
So we're not just targeting the dairy farmer here. We're also looking at the dry stock sector as well in terms of what we have to offer. And I suppose you mentioned it's a family day, so it won't be just auctioning calves. What else, say, will be happening on the day? I suppose that will appeal to the whole family.
So we have about 10 or 12 companies that have given us donations or sponsored us in some shape or form. They'll all be having stands there on the day. We'll also be having food producers that donated produce to a Valentine's initiative there for Rearing to Go, where there was hampers made up of quality Irish food produce. So a lot of those producers will hopefully be coming along on the day. So there'll be kind of a farmers market theme to the event as well. And the celebrity auctioneers will be hanging around to chat and take photos and stuff. John the Bull Hayes is one of our auctioneers, and I think he'll be right good crack on the stage. And Helen Carroll is also auctioning a few, and we have 3 more auctioneers lined up, which would be well known publicly. So it should be a good fun day for the family. We'll try and keep it to, I think that we're hoping to kick the auction off around 12 o'clock and have the last calf sold hopefully by 2 o'clock, because we're conscious that farms are busy this time of the year and people want to they've a lot of morning jobs to do and they've jobs to do when they go home in the evening. So it's a few hours around lunchtime, but it should be a right good fun event.
And I suppose finally, just to wrap up, Peter, you mentioned the importance of talking and the importance of having a conversation. And you've also highlighted there's a huge support network, for you, I suppose, in your role on the dairy farm, from Paula and from the children. I suppose, what are your, any key messages that you have for, I suppose, dairy farmers who are, under pressure at the moment on their farms, as a result of, I suppose, the busy spring period?
Yeah, look, I suppose, we all have a huge workload at this time of the year. Number one thing has to be try and eat healthy and get a good night's sleep if possible. Now I know that's with calving, it's not possible to get a full night's sleep, but there's an hour or two there in the day where you can grab a few hours sleep. The contractors should be taking up as much of the tractor work as possible, because there's no way a farmer can take on everything himself. And I think it's very important to get off the farm as well, just for an hour or two at some stage. There's always going to be a slack day in calving where you can kind of say at 10 o'clock in the morning, look, my jobs are done, right, I'm going for 2 hours, and myself and Paula do it there. We'll go for a breakfast date or something just to get out and see the real world, because you just can't be there 7 days a week. Like it's a no-no. And I think even just having good friends and someone to chat to, for myself, then I'll listen to a real good podcast now or something.
So you listen to us, Peter, is that right?
I do, and I listen to the Audible Evanses ones as well. But you're on the list, don't worry.
Good stuff. I think that's a great note to finish on. So I suppose Rearing to Go on the 2nd of March, and donations are still open. So any calves you have, Peter is willing to take them. That's great. Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, mate. Much appreciated.
That's it for this week's episode of the Dairy Edge podcast, and my thanks to Peter Hynes for joining me on this week's show. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify. And for more information, go to the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie. I'm Emma-Louise Coffey, and join me next time for your Dairy Edge.